welcome back to the show. Now, it's pie day here on Afternoon Express in our kitchen, and there's no better season for a hearty, indulgent pie. Now, there's no doubt that a pie is just a pie until you add the elite taste of clover cheese. Dumi?
Yes,
you know that's my favorite recipe. That's my favorite ingredient.
I know. You love you some cheese, girl. And today we're going to be using our Clover Feta cheese. And I think it works perfectly with this because it's a Greek-inspired recipe, chef, right? So it works perfectly into this recipe.
Absolutely. And what's so nice about feta cheese is it doesn't just dissolve and dilute and go. It holds itself.
Yeah.
But it gives this wonderful voluptuous, creamy texture that's so soft and actually quite silky. And then this wonderful ping and zing of saltiness.
And I love salty. You know, I'm a savory queen. I do not like my sweets.
Oh.
So I love this. And I'm a good fan of pies, but I'm basic when it comes to my pie fillings. I love the steak and kidneys. I love the cornishes. I love the pepper steaks. Super simple. But here we're elevating it and we're adding that elite taste of clover cheese. I mean, you can add a variety of the clover cheeses to the range. Today we're using feta though, Dumi.
Yes, Balisa, we are, and a whole lot of other ingredients, right? To start it off, I'm going to be making the filling. You and I basically are working on the filling today. You're going to be chopping up some spinach for us and some mint. I'm going to be making the filling, which has some lamb meat. We've got some olives, some onions, tomatoes. We've got beautiful herbs here, chef. We've got the marjoram, oregano. You brought the juice here, and then you're making the pastry for us because we are talking pies. So
Correct.
you want to just tell us what exactly goes into the pastry part of this pie?
Absolutely. So I'm doing what we call a pouring crust pastry. So you're literally going to be pouring it. We're actually going to make, in essence, a batter. And with that batter, it's typical ingredients that will normally go into your pastry filling anyway, which is some flour, butter, milk, and then obviously it's going to be enriched with eggs. So those are going to be my components. Slacken up a little bit of oil, that margarine, bringing that flavour through as well. And we're going to get into like a batter consistency. So you can imagine once you've done this filling, now your pie filling is just typically a stew in essence. But you can literally take anything you make at home. It could be a mince filling. I mean, imagine taking our wonderful bobotie and that hold of that mince, and then you're taking your pie crust, our pouring pie crust, and pour that onto the top.
Delicious.
In essence, you've got a pie. So,
super simple, super South African, but also today we're taking it all the way to Greece. So I love the fact here that I've already chopped up the mint, smelling delicious. And mint is quite a good addition and pairing to lamb. Hey, chef.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, lamb and mint are a perfect marriage in heaven there. I mean, there's that freshness, and that's what we want. So we've got some dry herbs with your marjoram, oregano, which is it goes crazy wild over the hills in Greece, and then that parsley. So you've got this wonderful herbaceous note coming through, and that just elevating that flavour of lamb. So there's it all perfectly cut for you on there.
Well done, Chef Bale.
Pleasure.
Look at you.
Pleasure.
I see how she took the small bunch first, the mint there. I'm gonna watch
with the spinach. So I've started sauteing our onions here. As we always talk about layering flavors, I've started with our onions here. It's the base for most cooking. I mean, if you get your onions in at the beginning, you get that nice sweetness from there that most people don't understand. It's not super sweet, but it just works perfectly for any type of recipe, especially this
absolutely. And get some colour, because colour to me is flavour.
Sure.
You want to start building up those layers bit by bit. So I'm literally just going to put all my ingredients in here and just basically whisk it together. Margarine for that extra depth of flavour as well.
Now, it's also very key to not burn your margarine when you are creating anything with melted margarine. I think that's been something that we've highlighted quite a bit, that it doesn't matter how you melt it down, Dumi, essentially, but those bursts in the microwave is what you're looking for.
Correct, Balisa. So in essence, you want to just put it in there a little at a time, but perhaps give it like 10, 20 seconds at a time and then keep stopping. You don't want to burn it and, and kill the flavors. But I'm also just starting here with our rosemary.
Rosemary is what we term as a hard herb, as you can feel by the texture of it. So it's robust, it's bold, it's beautiful. So that can really stand up the flavors. Where you've got things like oregano, marjoram, it's actually a medium herb. So I want that intensity. So I really want, lamb. I mean, we have beautiful lamb in this part of the world. Our Peru lamb that's eating all these, funny bushes and all the rest in the scrubland, and it's got such flavour. So I want to complement those wonderful herbaceous notes. And that's where I want from the driedness, that real intensity. But hey, by all means, if you've got fresh herbs, add them in.
Yeah.
I think this is such a good note, chef, because at the end of the day, a lot of the time, I open up that pantry cabinet, and it's just spice after spice, and I don't know how to use them, how to incorporate them into different recipes. So this is essentially an iconic way to make sure that you use up what's in your pantry.
There's no better better thing than to have a pantry full of spices. You don't want to not have the spices.
Yeah.
So you'd rather have too much than too little, because like you say, you never know when to use them. I always say try. Just put your flavor into anything. It's all just a trial and error type situation.
Very much so, but I'm also going to say, guys out there, they must just, understand the components. We're going Greek. What is Greek?
Yeah.
Greek is very sort of Mediterranean,
Yes.
herbaceous. There's some tomatoey oliveness that comes with it as well. So that's all very important there. Don't just go and sort of throw everything in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about it. Indian spices, you're starting to talk more sort of harder spices, your corianders, your cumins. So start building on those blocks. So don't just go there and some more of this and that and that. Think about it very subtly of what do you want to ultimately achieve.
Yes.
Yeah. Essentially, keeping the integrity to the dish, to the meal, and to that cuisine. I suppose that's why they've got him on icy glaciers, preparing 5-star courses. Now, Chef, the consistency of that batter is gorgeous.
Well, pouring consistency is really what I want. But I don't want something that's also too runny. Because remember, it's sort of going to run down into the actual, pie filling itself. So all you want to do is just make sure, you can just see how it sort of falls off there very easily. I'm putting it into a jug just to make life a little bit easier. And since we are cooking on TV, things look lovely and beautiful. But ultimately, that's what you want. Put it into a jug, and that's ready to just sort of pour over our beautiful lamb mixture.
Now, I know that spinach does wilt, but do you think I've got enough spinach?
Falisa, it looks perfect for me. And in some instances, people want to cook the spinach separately. I say because we're trying to build flavor, put it in there with the meat, with everything else. So I'm going to start doing that right now. I've gone with all the herbs we had here. We had some parsley, marjoram, oregano. I've got some salt and pepper in there. And I'm going to add our tomatoes, right, Chef?
Oh, absolutely. And again, life's, you can use fresh tomatoes that you've got. There's sort of that bottom drawer, and there's a few sort of squidgy, squashy tomatoes. Chuck them in there. This is a great time to do so. But again, you want to build up that flavour. So even tomatoes, if you want to really, go that extra mile, develop more flavour, imagine roasting them and then adding them in to that as well. So there's lots you can actually do and play around with.
I've actually seen quite a lot of people making their own tomato sauce or tomato paste or kind of whatever you're about to put in your stew, as we are doing today. And they do roast their tomatoes first. Now, in terms of flavour profile and being able to elevate, I know tomatoes are very acidic. So does that help just cut through that acidic nature of the tomato?
Well, you got to be actually very careful. And, I actually go back on an experience many, many years ago. We used to do some beautiful lamb shanks for a restaurant that I developed some product for. And people came back afterwards and says, I'm actually not feeling great. So I'm like, well, we have the freshest, the best products ever. We use the best tomatoes that money could buy. And remember with something like tomatoes actually become, as you say, very acidic. And actually they can be very disruptive. And again, your time of year, this time of year, here, tomatoes aren't great. They're very wishy-washy and dry, but in the summer, they're very intense. So add a little bit of sugar just to counterbalance the acidity. Or sometimes more acidity is needed. So like we're going to be adding some olives just now as well. Now you've got that wonderful sort of salty bitterness coming through. It's going to counterbalance with the tomatoes. But just check. Adjust as you go.
I love that. Dumi, I've seen you adding all of those ingredients in the pot. Can you just give us a recap as to what you just put in?
Awesome. So I've just put in the tomato, like I mentioned earlier. I added our olives. I've added the spinach. So what we want is you want to cook it down and let it reduce like we've got here in this beautiful mixture. And then you can add your mint as well and our stock as well at the very end. So basically, you want it to cook down in those juices and all of that. And it's going to come to this beautiful texture that we've got over here. And then Chef pours on that pastry we just made. Bake it in the oven for how long, Chef?
Well, again, just want it to golden brown. That's all that you really sort of want. So it's not going to take very long, be 15, 20 minutes, and you're going to have this beautiful crust on there. So once you've got that, you can just sort of pour that over the top.
Wow.
Look at that. So imagine this is like sort of a bready consistency because it's, it's got the basic ingredients or, and pastry, just call it, it's just a fancy name, really. But pour that over the top. Oh, yes, please.
Just like the Dumi I know.
Oh,
look at her creeping in. I know what you're about to do, Queen.
Oh. Let's I'm about to break in the feta because this is what we're talking about now. This is the pièce de résistance of our pie. And we're topping it with our beautiful feta cheese. Most people want to put it in the pastry, but we're just putting it on the top for that final. And it looks prettier.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Now, that is eliteness taken all the way to the top. If you'd like to get this recipe, just head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
Clover cheese is for those who love life, where everything falls into place and melts away our cares, adding joy and stretching our imagination. Clover, for the love of cheese.
Made with love by Clover.
Delicious, I am hungry, my mouth is salivating, and I heard a milk tart is also on the menu.
It is indeed, absolutely. We're going to knock up that rough puff pastry earlier on, and then our wonderful, voluptuous milk tart filling. Oh.
All of that when we return.